What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Visions with 2 Z's. As you can see, I'm sick and tired of this audio system that's in my car. I've dealt with it long enough, and I'm done with it. I'm sick of it. It's time to change it. So, little background. I grew up in an era of like cheater amps and like high quality type stereo systems where if you had a car, you had to change it. You couldn't just roll with the stock system that's in the car. You know, you had to do it. So like all the cars I've ever had growing up, they all had something done to them. I've always had to do either, you know, at bare minimum, change the head unit, change the speakers. I've always had to do something. Even I used to go all out with like, you know, 12s in the trunk and beating down the block, setting off car alarms and all that. So in that era, the era where I grew up, you know, I grew up in like the 90s where you had, you know, the birth of JL Audio, MB Cord when it was like super high end, Zapco, PPI, Phoenix Gold, you know, MTX. You had, you know, Hotphonics, Soundstream, Alpine V12s. I mean, all that stuff from back in the day that, you know, car audio was the thing. And that's one of those things I've never gotten out of my blood. I've always had it in my blood and I can't get it out. So, and I've driven this, and I've been hesitant to change anything, just so I can deal with it, I can live with it. But I'm tired of it. It's time to change it. So, if you don't know, this is my 2010 Acura MDX. I had it in a video about 2 years ago when I first got it, talking about the super handling all-wheel drive and the Georgia snow. Georgia snowstorms with a twist on 22s. And I've had it for a few years now, and I mean, I like it. I mean, I like everything else about the truck with the exception of the system. The system just sounds horrible. It has no definition. It's weak. It has really no adjustments. I can't really do any adjusting, so it doesn't have like any EQs type stuff. And even the bass, mid, and treble, when you do adjust it, just the curve, it's just nasty. I don't like it. The sub is weak. I can't say anything else worse about it. It's just horrible. So I started digging out all my old equipment out of the my closet to start putting something together that I can put in here and try to build something that sounds better. So one thing that's really been made me not want to do this is because for a long time you couldn't change the factory head unit, and the factory head unit does have Bluetooth, but it doesn't have Bluetooth streaming, which I'm not really too big on that anyway. I'm not really big on the sound quality that comes out of Bluetooth streaming. So, but it doesn't have like Apple CarPlay, and doesn't have Android Auto, and, you know, all those little features and stuff like that. So I want to be able to, plus I want to be able to control my subwoofer frequencies, high pass filters, and stuff like that right from the head. So up until recently, I found a wiring harness that I could use, kind of plug and play, like I'm kind of used to. Well, I'll wire it, but they have plug and play options and a wire option. So I finally found one of those, so that will allow me to be able to use an aftermarket head unit, and also a dash kit that I could use, so I can use the aftermarket head unit. So that's what kind of pushed me into go ahead and pulling the trigger on and start doing this stuff. So my goal for this is, I don't want to have a system. I'm not building a system to go beat down a block anymore. I've done that. I mean, I still have all my old sub boxes, anything from 8s to 12s and different configurations. So, you know, I could go beat the block if I wanted to. I really don't want to do that. I want something that just sounds nice, detailed, clear. Just a good sound quality type system. I want it to be as stealth as possible. You know, obviously if I'm changing the head, that's going to take away from some of the stealthiness. But I do not want to do giant box in the trunk, because I still need all my cargo space. I still need to be able to carry photography equipment. I still got to be able to carry the drums, and I still, you know, I have 4 kids, so sometimes I have all 3 rows lifted. But most of the time I have all 3 rows lifted, so I got to carry, kids. I can't always let down the seats. So I want to be able to maintain my cargo space, but yet still have a nice, deep sounding type sub. So the components I'm rolling with, and before I even go with the components, let me say this. I mentioned a bunch of brands in the beginning. I've always been a Pioneer head. For the money, it's hard to beat the quality and the feature set that you get out of Pioneer components. And plus, they've been dead reliable for me. I've been using Pioneer forever. So why wouldn't I not continue to use Pioneer? So with that, let's start with, I have my list over here in the seat because, I want to be accurate on, what I'm doing. You feel me? But yeah. So for the head unit, I have a double din. I pulled up my old Pioneer. It's a DEHP 3300 BT. It's a double din DVD unit with a 5-inch screen. I think it's 5 inches, like 5.3 or something like that. So let's just go with 5 inches. 5-inch screen. And it does have Bluetooth. Does not have Bluetooth streaming. Not to could care less about that. But it does have iPod integration. It doesn't have Apple CarPlay, but it does have iPod integration, so that I can as long as the application I'm using interfaces with Now Playing, I can still control it with the head unit. So it does have that, and plus it does have native Pandora support as well. It has three RCA outs, so I can run my amps off of that, and it has all the other stuff. It has a 8-band EQ, high pass, low pass filters, all that good stuff. So that's what I'm using for the head. For the front door speakers, I have a set of Pioneer TSD 65Cs. This is a 6.5-inch separate. Has a 6.5-inch mid bass that'll go in the doors with a 1-inch tweeter that'll go in the dash. And I think these were for the entire front sound stage. I think these will match really, really well with the center channel, which I'll tell you about in a second. I wanted to go with a set of Focals because they just sound really, really good. But again, for the money, number one, and number two, I think with the center channel that I'm gonna tell you I have, I think they will work really well together with this center channel. So speaking on the center channel, I have a Infinity Reference. Infinity Reference 3012 CF. It's a 3.5-inch two-way component speaker. The Infinity is very bright, and I think it'll work really well as a center channel. It's pretty bright, and the vocals are kind of in your face more so, kind of like a center channel would be. So that's why I think the Pioneers, being that they're not as they're detailed but not overly aggressive on the brightness scale. So I think they're gonna blend very, very well together. And on the 3.5-inch, so we won't run any bass through it, I have a 300 hertz bass blocker, a Stinger bass blocker that I have on it, so it'll block out all the lower frequencies. But I went with 300 because I still want to be able to get that lower vocal frequency to give you that warmth. So for like male vocals and like maybe like tenors, like vocalists, like tenor vocalists, you will get that fullness of their voice. So I didn't want to cut out all of that at like a 1K or even like a 5K, a 500 hertz, because I wanted to still get that lower end. And plus with the amp I'm using, I'm not putting a lot of power through it anyway, which I'll get to that in a few minutes. In the back doors, I have a set of old Boston Acoustic RM6s. It's a two-way 6.5-inch speaker. I've used them as my rears for a number of different applications. I love the way they sound. They're very warm and detailed, so they work really, really well for a rear fill. And plus, if you're in the back, it's detailed enough and it has enough definition that rear passengers still get a nice sound from them, but they're not so big and bright that they are overpowering my front sound stage. So I mean, I've always really enjoyed those. I've had those for a long time and they sound really, really good. So that rounds out the speakers, with the exception of the sub. So the sub, that's one that's been kind of getting at me a little bit. I went with, it's a shallow mount. It's an MB Quart it's a DS1-204. It's an 8-inch dual voice coil shallow mount 8-inch subwoofer. Now I know, for if there are any old school diehard peers on here that's watching this, I know it's not old school MB Quart. It's not MB Quart of the late 80s and 90s. That super high quality, you know, just if you had some MBs in your car, you were killing it, you know. So this is not that. I know MB Quart has been bought out by another company. I can't think of the name. I'll put it up here somewhere. So I know they're not what they used to, but I was interested to see how they sound, coupled with the fact that I'm not 100% sure if I want to keep the 8-inch shallow mount back there, or just get a custom box made for a single 10 or a single 12 to put in the kind of custom make in the same location as the stock subwoofer. So I didn't really want to go and spend, you know, $150 on like the Pioneer shallow mount or like the Kenwood Exelon shallow mount or something like that. So the MB Quart was only like $50, and it got good reviews on Amazon. So I was like, whatever, hey, why not? I'll give it a try. And I did kind of bench test it on my desk with my amp, and it sounds pretty good from what I can tell. You know, out just free air, it sounds pretty good. It sounds it seems to be very smooth, and it seems to transition really well. But I'm just waiting to see how it responds in the box, because it does seem like a little bit flat. So we'll see. All right. So for amps, for the highs, I'm using an Alpine MRP F300. It's not necessarily old school, but it's probably early 2000s. It's Class AB, really, really, really clean amp. I mean, it's not the old school Alpines made in Japan, but it's a very, very clean amp. Not a whole lot of power, but for this particular application, I think it'll work. It works perfectly. Again, like I said before, I'm not trying to go beat down the block. I mean, I just want something that's nice and clean, and this Alpine definitely fits the bill. It's very, very clean, and the speakers I have are relatively efficient, so I don't need a whole lot of power. I think it's 50 times 4 maybe, or something like that. I'll have to I'll put that in the description up here somewhere as well. So for the highs, that's what I'm going with, and for the sub, I'm going with an Alpine V12 MRV T302. Again, not like super old school V12, but it's probably late 90s, probably like a late 90s V12. So yeah, probably late 90s. It's a small amp. I had it on an 8-inch JL audio in one of my cars, and it did a really, really good job. So I think it'll do a good job here. It's rated at 150 RMS bridged. So the MB Quart is rated for 200 watts RMS, so I think it'll be just enough. And we all know these older amps, in most cases they were underrated. So I'm pretty sure it's probably closer to 200, especially if I wire the two voice coils in parallel and bridge it, then it's probably gonna be a little bit closer to 300. Probably it's gonna put out, but we'll see if it can even take it. I know when I bench test it, that's how I have it wired, and it drives it pretty well. And I mean, it drove it for a while, so it's 4 ohm stable or 2 ohm stable, but I think it should take, especially if I can keep it cool. So that's the roundup. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna do a series on this. Again, this is gonna be my first series, so I'm kind of pumped and kind of excited about that. And we're gonna do it step by step. Generally, when people upgrade the stereos and systems in their cars, upgrade the factory system, they start with the component speakers first. So that's what I'm gonna do. So the next video, in this series I'm going to drop is going to be me replacing the speakers inside. I'm going to see how that's going to sound and see how the improvements are, which is going to be very interesting because the factory speakers are 2 ohms and all my speakers are 4 ohms. So I'm interested to see how much volume I lose, but it's not going to really matter anyway because I'm going to be changing the amps anyway. So anyway, that's it. That's all. You know, thanks for joining the ride. I think we're like 1,500 subscribers, a little over 1,500 subscribers. So welcome to the ride. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you can kind of follow this build because this is gonna be fun. I mean, I'm gonna have a ball doing this. But all you other guys, everybody else that's subscribed, welcome to the ride. I appreciate you guys. So just continue to roll with me. Let me know what you want to see. Hit me in let's talk about it in the comments. Hit me in the comments. So again, it's your boy Mr. Visions with 2 Z's, and we out.